Good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you're watching. Welcome back to episode 54 of Track Help. It's always amazing to count how many Track Help episodes we're into, and it just shows how well this community is growing. I just want to bring it over to the past week where we've had a notable number of entries. We had Joshua from India who joined us, we had Philip from Sweden who joined us, Joel from Singapore, Peter from Australia, who's actually sim racing and now just getting into karting, and Sricharan, who's looking to improve his driving, also from India. Sricharan, we're going to go through your footage shortly. I see you've obviously submitted that over there. Let's just get Harry into the call. What's up, Harry? Welcome back to Track Help.
Hello, hi.
How have you been, Harry? Long time no speak.
Yeah, I've been good. Yeah, it has been a long time.
Have you been in Club 100?
Yeah, I did one race, but it was we don't want to talk about it.
Well, that's really up to you. We've got Jacob who's going to be joining us now. I see some familiar faces. What's up, Jacob? Welcome back to Track Help.
Hi guys, it's been a long time.
It's been a while indeed. It's been a while. How have you been?
Hello.
What's up, Kareem?
Just really hard time for me now. A lot of work during my university, so yeah, I'm unable to join. Studying hard to later, hopefully, earn good money for karting.
Well, you got to hustle sometimes. You got to sacrifice some time, and hopefully it's
Yeah.
going to pay off. Just a quick question from Bad Cat on Instagram. How can we join? Go to the KTips website, www.ktips.org, and you'll see a link to join the academy. They're free to join, and we're hopefully going to, over the next course of the hour, go through 3 bits of footage. We're going to get started with Kareem. What's up, Kareem? Great to have you on.
Hi, yeah.
Nice and early today.
Yeah.
I was going to say Eid Mubarak. Is it Eid in UAE as well today?
Oh no, I'm in Egypt. Unfortunately, no, it is not Eid today. But,
Okay.
well,
You didn't
fasting's
cite the
over
moon
anyway,
yesterday.
so it doesn't
Maybe
matter.
tomorrow.
Yeah, fasting's over anyway, so it doesn't matter.
We're going to start off with Kareem's footage today, move on to Brandon. Hopefully he's going to join us soon. If Brandon doesn't join, we're going to go straight to Srichan, and we'll round it off with some questions at the end. Kareem, you did a 8-hour endurance race. How was that? Your first ever 8-hour?
It was as far as driving goes. First off, I want to know because the first video is the fastest lap from my first stint.
Yep.
And the second one is the fastest lap from my second stint. So I
Gotcha.
want to know which one is that? Yeah,
this is the
from
first one. We'll start with the first one.
Yeah.
Now, which timestamp in the race was this? Would you say hour 2, hour 3?
Wait, it was lap 30. Wait, I'll check. It was lap 60.
Lap 50?
Yeah, it was lap 60, but I
60.
had the second stint.
Okay. So just basically after 1 hour 30 minutes.
Yeah, just around halfway in my stint. Yeah.
Perfect. And you're saying the lap time in this stint could not be bettered, basically. Is a 1:45.4
Oh,
you said?
no. Because if I took all of my fastest sectors from the stint, my ideal lap time would have been.
Sorry, Kareem, your mic is going low. Just repeat what you said. We missed that.
Yeah. So if I took all of my fastest sectors from my whole stint, and the first, my perfect lap would have been 44.8. My second stint, if we did the same, it would have been a 44.9.
You're gonna have to repeat that last part. It got cut out. It's just for me, guys. I hope you guys can also hear what Kareem's saying.
I'll check something.
Maybe just be closer to your mic because it just sounds a bit distant. That's all.
Okay. Yeah. Is this better?
Yep.
Okay. So this is my first stint. The fastest lap was a 44.5. I did 45.5. And in my second stint, I did a 45.8. But if I took all of my fastest sectors together, it would have made a 44.8 in the 44.9. But
Yeah.
here's the thing: in the first stint, the tires only had an hour on them. In the second stint, the tires had 7 hours on them. I took it,
Mm,
maybe closer to 8.
correct. So there's a lot of calculations at play. We can say, and there's different factors you see in these races. Now, in terms of the ideal lap, which you're saying when you take your different sectors, that's a really nice comparison, because that's like the lap with no mistakes and your full potential. So it's always good to see how much you're lacking then. Now, the lap can be messed up for different factors. Traffic can be one of them. Taking slightly.
No, they were both clear laps, to be honest.
They were both clear. Okay, that's
This
fine.
one I don't think so, really, but it was still
Maybe
fast.
slightly on the entry for the indoor section. You say just over here when you're.
Yeah, but he didn't hold me up too much, to be honest.
Yeah, a couple of tenths here or there. Basically, in my experience, I found in endurance races, there's normally a period of time where the fastest laps will be set, and then beyond that, it's all downhill. Like there's no improvements. So the outdoor race I did, which was in UK last year, you got to think of like 25-degree track conditions or weather conditions, and the best laps were all on lap 12 out of 24 hours, which was crazy. But
Yeah, that is
it
crazy.
started raining through the race. It started getting colder, so the weather affected that.
Yeah,
I
and
did
the
an indoor
tire
race,
wear as well.
tire wear, you could say as well. But the indoor
Yeah,
race,
because in Kart,
which was 24 hours, the
Yeah,
indoor
they
race I did, which was 24 hours, the track evolution was crazy, where you start the race at like 53-second lap times, and then people are doing 50 seconds by midnight. And pretty much midnight, the track had so much grip, it was like driving on rails. So lap 1 on the indoor race, lots of slipping and sliding. Lap 12, like you're driving on rails. And then after that, there was no improvement on timings. I do want to bring Jacob into this, though. Jacob, before we get your opinion on timings, how do we pronounce your surname, as Felipe is asking on YouTube?
My surname.
Yes.
Okay, so it's quite hard
Curiosity.
for foreign languages, but it's Bohatyrevich, but you can say Bohatyrevich. Like it's hard.
Bohatyrevich. Amazing.
It's like, yeah, it's
So,
kind of hard for the
That's
foreign languages.
completely the opposite of how I was saying it in my mind. Nice to hear confirmation, though, of it. Also,
Yeah, so what I really want to know is that when you look at the lap from my first set and the lap from my last set, I want to know if, because the times were pretty close, when the rest of the grid got like 3 seconds slower, maybe. Because beginning of the race, the leaders were all doing 1 minute 40 laps. End of the race, they were all mid 43, high 44, and low 44. But my lap time didn't really change. So I want to know, like, just looking at the lap, is generally a better lap, or is it just I had the better car?
yeah, you're right. It was a new kart, right? In the second stint, which we're gonna watch.
Yeah, we changed the carts every single driver change, or every single pit.
Any feedback on that, Jacob? Can you hear us, Jacob?
He's on mute.
Sorry, did you ask
No
me
worries.
something? Because I was on my phone checking
Yeah.
the messages. Sorry.
So Karim's just asking about his lap times, how he wasn't able to improve towards the end of the race. That could be due to tire wear, when you're 7 hours into a race compared to hour 1. Maybe track conditions as well could play a factor. He did change the kart in the 2 stints. What's your feedback with lap times and endurance races and the optimal time?
Being honest, completely honest with you, like you said before, there is a specific period of time on a track where the fastest lap times happen. For example, if it's an outdoor race, I think it's the most common thing to happen. But if you are doing indoor karting, I did not notice anything like that. Oh, but the tire wear may play a key factor. However, I think the biggest evolution, or maybe a biggest difference that can make, is the type of tire that you're driving on. For example, last summer
They're all the
I did a 3 hours Ironman race. It was on Duro tires, the cheapest tire for Sodis. And let's say like the first hour was really grippy, all was good. But later, when we went into the second half of the race, it was like 2 hours done. They started to overheat, and you had to change your driving style completely. The track was like 3 times slower. So yeah, it's my changed. And later we checked the tire pressures, and we made some adjustments because it was our first race with those karts in our indoor track. And we changed the tire pressures, and the problem was gone and never occurred again.
Fascinating.
So that's the thing. But I mainly, because this is quite a huge track, long straights, you have indoor and outdoor combined. The lap time might differ, but also the difference between karts will be larger on such a long track. Like it's really, really
that was
long.
the nice thing about this race. They were all brand new karts.
Yeah,
Every
but
single one was
even
brand
the
new
brand
tires,
new
brand
karts
new
from
brakes,
factory,
everything brand new.
they also differ. It's like rental karting. It's all about this. 2 tenths is a big margin in a big championship. If the kart is 2 tenths slower, even if it's brand new from the factory.
Yeah, to be
matters.
honest, I don't think anyone really noticed that, because on the straight through the corners, even when like happening other people, like the carts were pretty peaceful, like you wouldn't just see someone pulling the way on the straight. Like it was the driver that made the difference, not the cart. So that was a nice thing that we had to.
That's great to hear.
I think this was all in all a solid experience though for you, and it's the first out of three races, I think, or 3 out of 4, right? First out of 4 endurance you're planning to do.
Yeah, I have the 700 kilometers up next. It's going to be in April. It's last week of April. The maximum time that we set is 14 hours. Hopefully it doesn't go that long.
Yep.
But it's probably going to be somewhere around 12 hours.
Absolutely.
Actually, 11 to 13, actually, yeah.
Yeah. Just to round off, because we're going to have to move on to the next driver soon. What were some of the good things that you guys did in this race, and what are things that you can improve on?
Okay, so good things. When I was looking at my lap times, especially in that final stint, I was doing 45, like anywhere between a 45.8 and a 46.2 for like 30 laps straight. So
amazing.
By the
so
end of
you're
it,
consistent.
I was extremely consistent. So that's why I kind of wanted to compare, like the fastest lap on my first stint and the fastest lap on my last stint, to see if I was genuinely driving better as a driver, like throughout the race. Because I drove almost close to half hours total in this race.
Yep.
So that's something that I wanted to compare. So I think you can put the laps kind of side by side and mute them so the audio isn't off. And you can do it that way. But also, I think, I didn't upload the lap I had from the link circuit, which is what we're going to be using for the next round.
That'll be important. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I would recommend. Yeah.
It's only a 1 minute, 15 second. So usually on your track, you can see the gap between one like close to 10 seconds. But on the shorter layout, it's closer to 3 to 4 seconds.
I think what would be good now for a future track out session, upload whatever footage you got of the links. If you find any other drivers of links as well, some of the top guys, then let's put that. And then hopefully we can do a side-by-side. Some of the corners which you need some guidance on, we'll cover those. And we'll just
because actually if you can put up that section is all reversed. Completely
just repeat that again. You cut out?
Yeah, this section right there on the link pit, it's all in reverse. It's just
correct. You're basically, your turn one is the last corner, right? Or your
Yeah.
You're taking this whole portion in reverse.
Yeah,
I think
this is
that's
all in-
I think that's a nice bit of time you got now between now and the 26th, 25th, is it, or 26th to prepare.
yeah.
700 kilometers is
So
going to
that's the
be
thing. We're gonna have Ironmans anyways,
nice.
but if you can pull up the track layout, I think I sent for the All Stars GP layout, and I can actually upload the link circuit right now. I think.
We don't have time to cover that today. Let's keep that for a future session, though. As I said,
Yeah.
so
And if I have time, can we revisit it?
absolutely. So we're hopefully going to do that in a future session. Let's go over links. We're gonna have to move on now, Kareem. Be sure to
Yeah, but I
stay
just
on.
wanted to know, like, in your opinion, was my driving just genuinely better in that last stint?
That's what I wanted to round off with, actually, because number one, there's no traffic on that lap, right? When we compared the two, so you were essentially in a flow state. That's what we need to be in these endurance races, where we're driving very close to our limit, but we're not over driving and we're not under driving. This enables us to be consistent and quite relaxed with our posture. What you notice in that last stint is there was no, there were no excessive corrections. Everything was linking up well. There wasn't too much usage of track limits. There wasn't too less usage of track limits. So that model, right, of driving, if you can continue doing that, that's a good foundation. And then beyond that, then is just about finding a few tenths here and there.
Okay, and how would I do that?
Well, it really helps if you can work together with some of the quicker drivers. Like what I like to do is, if there's a quicker guy in front, he's just my reference, right? And however long I can stick on to him, I love that. Otherwise, if you're in no man's land, no one's in front, no one's behind, you get too relaxed, and it's all on you to try and find that extra time.
That was such a bad thing about this layout, is that the worst part of my whole lap was the indoor section. So
Yeah.
even the guys that were faster behind me,
Yeah.
they couldn't pass. I had, like, the guys that finished in P1, 2, 3, I had like a train of like 12 carts behind me for like 15 laps. No one could pass. And I feel them just bumping me me in the indoor section. But as soon as we go out, I just kind of, I'm in my own way, like just as good as them. And when I watched some videos that my dad took from the inside, I was like, oh my God, I had that many carts behind me.
Good defensive
So,
practice. That's the positive. Every scenario has a positive to it.
I was strong enough in the outdoor because you couldn't really pass in the indoor unless you just basically just messed up that first corner in the indoor, and they would and you go through. If you try to overtake without having the speed or just being ahead enough at first corner, because it happened to me a lot, they would try to go down the inside on that first corner, but that guy's made inside on the next corner, and if you're side by side, the guy on the inside squeezes you out, so you just stay ahead.
Absolutely. Kareem, we're running out of time now. We're gonna have to move on to the next driver. It's always a pleasure to go over your footage. We're gonna bring in Brandon over here. What's up, Brandon? Welcome back to Track Help.
How you doing, brother? Hope you had a good week.
Absolutely. We are delighted to have you back on because we missed your submission last week. Not to worry, we've got some new footage to go over today. Just before I move on to you, we've got Sricharan. Is that correct?
Yep.
Sricharan, we're going to go through Brandon's footage now since he's just arrived, and then we're going to round off with you for today. All right? Sounds good?
I'm good. Yes.
Let's get right into it then. There's a number of things I want to, comment on your footage, Brandon, in different aspects. Some about the driving.
Compromise my exit onto the straight. Yeah, I would love to hear about my editing and stuff as well. Just get some feedback as a YouTuber.
The first thing I'd encourage you to do is keep going, right? This is your style of content. I encourage anyone who's interested to take a look at Brandon's footage. It's on his YouTube channel, Master Mechanic. And what you're doing is you're giving a recap and an in-depth recap of what happened during your practice sessions. So One thing I would say though is there any way to get a chin mount, a helmet mount? Because you've got
That's
the great camera and all, but the angle.
That's exactly what I have, but it's actually my phone hanging off my face.
It's your phone. Okay, right. Your phone, you can, you'll have to look at a mount, maybe if you're able to get the top mounted version. There's a couple of setups. I'll send you some links, don't worry. But the key thing with doing this kind of recap, because you've got a voiceover in the background, just to give you as context,
kind of knocks me.
you can hear that Baron's narrating over his race. When you look back at this in a few months' time, you know exactly what you were doing that time, right? During that session, how you're feeling, what sort of emotions you were going through, right? What kind of people you were driving against, and ultimately how your performance was that day. So when was this actually on track? This was on the 12th of March, is that correct?
No, so I recorded this maybe about a week ago, and it took me a week to edit, and I had to edit the video before that, but I was fine.
Basically, it's you driving recently, though. This is as of a week ago.
Yeah, very recently. Yeah, the most recent.
Is this your local track then?
No, this is the one that's 2 hours away from me, but the one that I'm going to be racing in April. The one closer to me is only in later months, July.
Gotcha. Now it's tracks like this which are, just beautiful. I mean, what I would do to come and race in this place. Look at the scenery. Look at the setup. It's like would you say the hills, or I mean, it's not mountains as per se, or is it mountains?
Well, the track is called the Midlands, and it's because it's in the middle of nowhere. So
okay, but on a beautiful day like this, you really enjoy karting, and
racing isn't that big in South Africa, unfortunately. These are one of the few events that we do get throughout the year. Like, we mostly do drag racing and stuff.
Gotcha.
Is unheard of.
Well, they got a good facility. They got good karts, I have to say as well. These look like new karts. So what's the format that you're expecting for this race coming up?
So the one that I sent you is most likely the one that we're doing.
And
it's a sprint race.
Let me just try and bring that up. Whereabouts do you put that?
It was in the chat. It was just the map. Or did you want the details of the race?
Gotcha. Yeah. So don't worry. I've downloaded the track map. In terms of format, I mean, is it going to be qualifying race 1, race 2? Is it qualifying practice final? How's that as per the organizers?
Exactly right now. So it will be 4 5-minute qualifying sessions with the top times racing.
Nice.
And there's 2 separate race days. There's Saturday and Sunday. So yeah, we're racing both days. I'm guessing we're qualifying on both days as well.
So basically, it's just for best lap time.
Kind of, and I guess we have a race at the end to see who wins. Yeah.
Cool. In formats like that, you have to understand what the objective is for each session. So when it's qualifying, it's for best lap time, and ideally, we don't want to get bunched up and be battling people throughout the session. Find some space and go for hot laps. That's the best way to get it. Once it comes to the race, that's when you can start getting your elbows out. That's where you want to go for. You're on the back foot, you want to go for overtakes. If you're in front, go for your best defensive line. Keep people behind. The point is the objectives are different there. When it comes to best lap time, I understand you're currently at about 32 seconds on this track.
Yeah, about. Well, I'm doing like 32s, around 32.5s consistently, and if I get a really good lap in, 32s. Yeah.
And the top guys are about 30, 29, you'd say?
Yeah, apparently they can do 30s, but when I was there, they were doing like 31s, and nobody could get past the 31 for some reason on that day.
Okay. A couple of factors which will matter, especially in a competition like this. Is there any minimum weight or ballast weight they're going to add?
I don't believe so. I don't think we're
okay.
Yeah.
That will definitely make a factor. I mean, just looking at this track, we got some straights, but weight, especially in Saudis, makes a difference. So just look out. Maybe those top guys are, quite skinny, and they're close to 50 kilos and all that. the full hits, as we like to call it.
All
I
right.
would say do the best with what you got. And there's a couple of things which I spotted from your footage, which I wanted to go over. Before we do that, which parts of the track are you currently doing well at, and which parts do you still need improving on?
So definitely, I've always been good at my diving and my straights, and
Yep.
yeah, my entries and my exits. I always prioritize my exit, but especially for turn one, you lose all your speed in the first hairpin, so
Yep.
it kind of makes sense to try and maintain your speed in the second hairpin. But what I see a lot of people do is like they'll overslow for the first hairpin, try and take a wide line to get as much speed for the second hairpin, and that obviously messes up my line. And you see, I catch a lot of people up in the footage on the
Yeah.
second hairpin, and I get a run on them onto
Yeah.
the straight, and then I usually dive bomb them. What's it called going onto the straight? And yeah, that's basically it. And I'm trying to turn the car in on that corner, and I don't know whether I should lift off to try and get the back end to rotate, or whether I should just stick my foot in and just like control the part as I'm going through the corner, because I can definitely get through if I lift off.
Absolutely. There's some good points you made about the layout. Basically, your first couple of corners are double hairpin. So you have your turn one, which goes into your turn two. I understand turn two is pretty much flat, right? There's no lifting or braking.
For me, at least, you have to run it all the way to the edge, definitely. And I don't think
you're
anybody had
tapping the
run.
brakes, turn one, you'd say?
Yeah, I definitely tramp it so that I rotate the back
Yeah.
end.
That definitely is working to your advantage. So we're getting our braking done for turn one to hopefully drive the rest of the portion flat. It gets us a nice exit coming onto the back end of this portion, and probably one of the heavy braking points of the lap, or I wouldn't even say braking points. It's like a corner where you'd brake for rotation, and we're going to come to that in the onboard footage. Currently, it is a tap of the brake. You're saying for
I
the
don't.
left-hander.
I either take it flat or I lift off a little bit.
Okay.
I try and toss the back end in a little bit to try and get it to rotate.
Interesting. We got some nice runoff over here as well, and ultimately we want to get as good straight line speed and acceleration out this corner. The final sector over here is quite tricky because it's an awkward tight few corners, carrying a lot of speed on entry to the left over here, and then it's into a tight left, right, left. How's this final portion for you? In black, the left, right, left.
So at that first corner by the starting of your black line is kind of banked, so you can get a lot of like speed into that, and kind of like if you get two wheels off the ground, it kind of throws you into that corner with a lot of speed, and you can almost get the car completely sideways before the first hairpin and get speed. And I usually just cut into the right hairpin to try and save as much speed as possible, but a lot of people were again trying to take the widest line possible, go all the way to the left to try to get as much speed past the finish line. People were catching me like that. That's how I got rear-ended on that line. So people were saying I was slow in this section, but actually I was covering off my lines pretty well, I thought.
That's interesting. That's something we are going to observe. You're basically saying some drivers like take a wider entry, set up a better exit, and then maybe they get a bit more exit speed coming out here, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you're more direct. You're cutting across and then tighter line.
Yeah.
There's a number of ways to do this, and that's the best part of learning new tracks is you got to try different things out, and different drivers based on their driving style will adapt differently. Let's just go over a few key points. I want to start off with our left-hander before the long straight. Let's use some of the early laps. Since did you camera angle, or do you want to go to the end? You're saying
some 12 minutes at some full laps, but honestly, when I looked back and edited it, I realized I didn't leave any full laps.
No stress. No, it's all good. I found a few parts. I was just thinking towards the end, after the guy bumped you, do you think your camera angle got adjusted? Because it looks a bit higher over here. That's why.
Yeah.
The beginning.
Luckily for the last session, I didn't record it because I felt something was off with my mount, and it did start falling off during that session. Yeah.
Gotcha. Basically, we've got the pass left over here, and whenever we tackle a turn, let me just come up to a good portion over here. Turn
Yeah, I only
around.
started really getting my lines in towards the last one because I was fighting a lot of people. There was lots of people at this track on the day that I went, surprisingly.
And you look very busy every session that you went.
Yeah, it was incredible, actually. I had a lot of fun.
And that's one thing which I really liked is you captured the post session, when you're out, you're chatting with people. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I didn't actually realize that the guy who rear-ended me, I was talking to him about lines and braking and all that stuff, and he was kind of being offish with me. I didn't realize that, like, maybe I was in his way or, like, ruined his race or something. So I was being all friendly, and I realize now that maybe he just, wasn't.
No, it's no stress, really. Once you're out the cart, then all the tension goes. Coming up to our corner over here, and just to give you a visual reference of how this looks, it's laid out to be a wide entry and then a left. Realistically, how much of this track should we be using? Should we be coming up all the way to the outside white line? Should we be staying in the middle? Should we be going tight? Currently, what's your approach? Are you going all the way wide? Are you going middle or tight?
So if you kind of draw a line on the left-hand apex, I always try and hit that apex. And
just one moment. Let me just this one over here.
Yeah.
Apex.
So I get that as much speed as I can, flat through the corner, try and hit that apex, maybe
Nice.
try and hit that corner as well of the next apex.
Yep.
And then hit it kind of straight and gets enough speed to almost angle it, hitting the end of the, corner.
White line over here?
Yeah, basically, like around there. Yeah,
Awesome.
And then try and straight shot it, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically dive bomb and get the car turn in a V into get as much speed. But I've seen people try and take a wider line, and they do sometimes get a run on me on the straight, but then I can just cover off the inside and I'm good,
If you look at the onboard shots, because these are more of a visual reference, cutting across the right-hand apex,
I guess I keep it to the right and
sticking it slightly wide, and you
Yeah.
need to have that slightly wide entry just to set up for the tight left. And is the turn-in more a flick and you're trying to get some rotation, or is it a smooth turn-in? How is it over here?
Towards my later sessions, I tried tramping the brake so that I could rotate the back out a bit, and that was helping a bit. But also, when I got some really good lines, when I would just hold my throttle in and just flick my steering and try and almost drift it through the corner. The corner was kind of weird because it allowed you weren't going fast enough to hit the brake to always get the rear end to rotate how you wanted it to. So you kind of needed the speed to rotate the car, at least I felt.
I think in your case, and based on how you've done it for a few laps, you're in between that flat or brake. So what we tend to veer towards that situation is either a lift or a 50% lift. So sometimes when we lift, we come 100% off the gas and then we reduce speed. Sometimes if that lift is still too much, you felt you're losing a bit too much time, release the gas 50%. So you're keeping some there, but it is also reducing slightly amount of time. The main objective that you're trying to achieve in this corner is your inside apex, right? You want to be close to the inside of the corner over here. So whether you take a wide entry and then that allows you to cut in tight and hit that apex, or you take a mid entry, but then you're still going tight, always make sure how do you know you're doing this corner well? How close are you to the apex? So you've got a couple of references there. You've got, I think there's a curb on the ground. Is that correct? Or painted curb? Is that?
Yeah, literally a painted curb. I was focusing more on my runoff. Like I was just trying to get as much speed on my runoff. But I understand, like hitting this apex. They also put tires a bit weirdly because it's not this exact same as the map, so you kind of have to dodge the tires a little bit on the exit, so you can't take it as tight on the inside. So
always have the 3 points in mind: your entry, your apex, and then, as you said, what you're trying to prioritize is your exit point. And the smoother we can take this with least resistance, the faster we're going to go. So sometimes, coming in too tight or coming in too fast and then suddenly drifting and then having to tighten up our angle makes us slower. Always listen to sound of your kart through here. Are the tires squealing a lot? Am I too smooth? That's two ways. Am I overdriving, underdriving? I would say avoid the braking for this corner if you're currently going flat. And if you hear the tires squeal too much over here, or you feel a drop in revs, maybe you need to start lifting on the corner entry, right? And the idea is you'd lift somewhere in this range. So we don't want to leave the lifting too deep or too late into the corner. Early lift,
Right.
experiment with 100%. If that's too much, experiment with a 50% lift. The idea is we get an early lift done, start to getting our turning done at the same time. That scrubs some speed off. And then from this point onwards, we're all gas before the apex. So we're ramping up acceleration. Don't go too quickly on the acceleration. That could give you a big snap of oversteer. So just go from 50%, 75%. Once you feel kart is stable, go over 100% like that. I like how you're using the runoff over here. This is very effective. Again, it's all about keeping those revs high. So continue to do so. One portion I do want to round off with is the final sector. Yeah, we can call it the left, right, left. This is a nice example of how you take a tighter line and then you gain on people, right?
Yeah.
So
Accidentally.
what's happening over here is on the exit of the first left, you're basically catching up to the driver in front. I just want to bring my track map up over here. Currently, what's the braking point for the first part? Is it a brake you're doing or a lift? First
Literally,
left.
I'll aim the cart and kind of smash the brake so that I can get that V, then rotate that cart, and it's basically a straight line through this. I'm turning this into a chicane, this first hairpin,
Nice.
basically. And then, yeah, try and keep it as close to the right as possible for the coming left-hander onto the short straights.
So you take this first apex, then you're cutting across the track, so we can say something like this. You do?
Literally, yeah, cut everybody off my track.
Nice. That's your line. And then stay tight.
Usually I was actually trying to get as much speed, so I'll run it off to the outside to try and gain speed, and that usually means I'm covering off the inside for this coming corner, and
Yeah.
anybody on my outside has to. But I didn't get to experiment with my line here. I wanted to take
You
a
have to yield.
tight line. Yeah.
That's interesting. I think what you're doing in this line is taking the path of least meters. Now, where do you gain on that? You're going to gain definitely on this portion, right? You're cutting people off. What that could do is, because you're taking a slightly tighter line on entry for the right, is that now coming out of this corner, you might not have as good exit as somebody who will be on my pink line. So if you come wide, then they sacrifice some time on entry over here. And what this is enabling them to do, so by coming out to our left over here, is then build up some RPMs, cut back across the track, and then catch you somewhere over here. So you've got to be strategic. The blue line, I would say, if you're comfortable with, if you find that, that's where you're getting good timings, stick with that. And especially in a defensive scenario, that works. I would experiment going on the pink line, a couple of times, at least in one of these practice sessions that you do in the future, and see what impact that has. Yes, you'll lose on the first portion of the corner, but I think you will get a bit better exit. The reason why is just looking at that clip when you were with the marshal who was on track. You remember the marshal who came for a lap or so?
Yeah.
What was his name?
I didn't ask his name. I was just
Okay.
like so excited because he was racing.
No worries. Well, whoever the marshal was,
Yeah.
he gave a good account for himself. I mean, this is pure, pure
Pushing
karting.
the clock down and stuff. The crazy.
No helmet, no suit, just vibes.
Straight up.
That's why he's gaining a few extra tenths, less weight. So he goes for a wide entry, sharp turn in, brings it all the way back to the left-hand side, and then here you see that switch. So
yeah,
on
you
the
know
left,
what's helping him is that his head's aerodynamic too,
you mean his haircut, or
Yeah.
Heading out, it's not too clear on this angle, but what you can tell is just getting a slightly wide entry, hugging the left-hand side, running nice and close to the left-hand barrier over here, and then he opens up the last corner. If I can just get that clip back up one more time. This is actually the following lap. Sorry?
You think it'd be worth it trying the body positions that he was using? Because I could see how he was turning his body
He's
to
leaning
get
in.
yeah, to get. He wasn't leaning in. He was like
Okay.
motioning his body to put weight into the right hand side of the cart. I could tell. And when he was pushing down on the corners when he was doing it one handed, he wasn't picking up.
That's his hand, right? Yeah, that's interesting. You'll notice over here. I think he pulls into the pits over here. Does he?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was the previous lap. No worries. Nice and tight through the left, and then using some runoff on the left there. I think the main thing you want to experiment is in terms of his line and his body position, of course. Very wide entry. You can see he's about half a kart length to the right. So he's using up all this track on the left-hand side.
Is he braking there to rotate the kart?
He could possibly. I think it's a tap for rotation just by looking at the tightness of this corner.
Yeah.
You will want to brake hard for rotation, but the key thing is wide. Like we're almost on this white line over here. The idea is then now we have time and space to cut back across the track, and this is all acceleration. Stay slightly wide because we've got so much speed now. All this yellow is speed.
Mm.
We need a slightly wider entry for the right. We don't necessarily need to prioritize the first apex, but we definitely need to go for a slightly mid to late apex for the latter part. And that's where we can then stay tight and then finish off the lap. So really about this last sector is decided with your entry. Enter too tight, and then you're going to end up going on that shorter path like this.
Mm.
If you can try to enter wide, brake slightly for rotation, late apex across the track, open up the right, and then you should be flat out for the remainder portion.
Okay, right.
That's basically two things I want you to try. It's very, very important that we do things systematically. And you know what? You are going to see the difference now, whether it's a positive or whether it's you want to revert back to your own style. Just one last thing before we round off. I thought this was quite interesting when you were following this driver, the marshal, his line for the fast left-hander before the back straight. So he's entering nice and wide. You can see where our outside white line is. Very, very wide. Potentially braking for rotation. I think it's a lift and a sharp turn. You can even see how sharp that turning is. Almost for lock on entry. Shifting his weight to that outside, and then he's all gas now. You can see how the steering wheel from a very tight angle is now back to a neutral position. So he's putting gas, inducing a bit of oversteer. He's going quite late with his apex, right? So he's not bothering to go too early. Earlier we go, earlier we're going to hit the runoff. Later we go, quicker we can get back on the accelerator. And that's basically going to be his line. When are you going to go to the track next?
It's most likely going to be race day.
Oh, it's race day. Okay.
Yeah.
It is a 2-hour trek. So I do understand that. It's not so local. But the experiment out the lines in terms of adding a lift for this fast left. And then a slightly wider line for the last sector where we don't necessarily cut the meters too early, but hopefully get rewarded by a better exit. Let me know how it goes, Brandon. Anything else before we move on to the next driver?
Yeah, the getting rear-ended part. How do I stop that from happening? Because I was trying so hard not to get in his way.
That's all with the marshals. You know, are they going to be watching closely and paying attention to people bumping? No, in all seriousness, when people bump you like how they did in your video, that's not sport. That's not very sporting, and that's a deliberate push to pass, as we call it in racing. If you push to pass, you push somebody out the way and take their position. That's a offense. So the marshals should be doing something about that if it's a proper race. Otherwise, you report it to them after. Look, this guy pushed me on this lap, and if you have some footage, show them. That always helps. You
Of
can't
course,
use footage.
I should record definitely.
Otherwise,
This is
people
why.
doing that.
Yeah, this is why they don't like us having GoPros on a
It's
Kartdrome,
true.
especially on the SWS races.
Yeah.
They're like, no GoPros allowed. Sorry, the
Everybody
reason is
comes
so
a
you
long
can't
line.
contest any decisions made. Just deal with it. But yeah, like even if someone like pushes to pass like accidentally, because I did it sometimes, I thought there was a gap, got a bit too
Yeah.
confident on the brakes,
Yep.
bumped
Yeah,
them
I
to
did the same
pass,
to the kid. Yeah,
just let them pass again, like that's sportsmanlike behavior. Like acknowledge you made the mistake and give them back the position.
true. I did cut him off for the first corner, so I did feel bad. I was in the like mentality of like, I don't know, I was just defending the entire day, and I just got in that mindset. I forgot about my lap times, in all honesty. Kind of.
Yeah, sometimes when you're in the groove of things, then you're not going to give up positions easily. So all in all, there's a good experience of defending, and especially the fact you defended for so long without feeling too much pressure. Normally, drivers, when somebody's on their back, they mess up very quickly, and within one or two corners, they make a mistake and the driver passes. If you can be comfortable with someone just being there and you're placing your kart in the right spots, right, then that's the key. I would always encourage cover the switchback. So on entry of a corner, you defend the inside line. Make sure you brake early and get on the gas early. So on the exit, they're not able to switch back on you. That's my advice for defending.
All right.
I wish you all the best in the upcoming race. Please join the future track help session after you complete the race and let us know how it goes. Hopefully show us some footage as well.
Absolutely. Appreciate it so much, man. Advice is invaluable.
It's a pleasure to have you on. We're going to have to move on to Sri Charan now. Are you still there, Sri Charan?
Thank you, guys.
Yes, so much.
Excellent. I'm going to bring up this track, or lap rather, from, is it Pune?
Yes.
This is such a popular track now on Track Help because we've had many drivers. I think it's 3 or 4 drivers who've been submitting from it. Do you know Manoj? Manav, sorry, not Manoj, Manav.
Yes. So I've seen that session, the call that
You
you
saw
had
the Track
with,
Help on
Manav
the
as well.
playlist,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Amazing.
And I've also met Manav personally, so like I know him personally. Yeah.
Oh, superb. Actually, Manav joined, I think it was last year in April, nearly a year ago, basically. So when I first saw this track and his footage, it was quite new. And then he joined many track help sessions after that, and we got to improve his timings. We got to know that he was doing is it a competition they did there or some kind of a qualifier for a competition?
Yeah, so recently, I think, so in the starting of this month, there was a event here, so that happened.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
the footage that I'm showing, like that I've uploaded, is also from that event itself.
Okay, super. Was this during a race or like a qualifying session of the event?
So this was during a race. Unfortunately, I did not record my PB session, because my GoPro was out of battery.
Yep.
But I was trying to follow and be consistent with my lines and my breaking points. So
Yeah.
I think it should.
I didn't realize you had background. What is your best lap so far at this track?
So I did a 40 flat in this track.
Super. And this session lap we're watching approximately?
I didn't get you.
So approximately what lap time is it that we're watching in this video? About 40.5, 41?
Yeah, I think it's a 40.5.
40.5, yeah. So I want to bring you over to the track map before we go any further. And the main thing I did want to ask about this one, just a moment. Okay, that doesn't want to think. We'll just do it manually from here. Main thing I did want to break down is just how this track flows. We basically start from a start line into left-right chicane, come up to our first, I'd say this is the iconic hairpin turn. I remember discussing a lot with Manav about this, and first of many hairpins which is coming up. It leads us onto the mid part of the track, which consists of a double right-hander into another hairpin. This is quite
Another
a tight hairpin. You could even argue this is a double hairpin sequence of the first hairpin, which is probably where you have to break the first part. The second part is a bit faster.
Just flat out.
Yeah, just about flat out. And then the final sector, which is high speed double left into that really cool final corner you guys got. Left, right, once again. So currently, where are you doing well and where are you still trying to improve sector wise? 1, 2, 3.
Yes. So I think I'm losing a lot, like right from the first sector. So I think first sector is where I struggle a lot, especially
Alright.
with the turn 1 and turn 3.
Okay.
And after that, I think turn 5 or C3, C5 that we have, I think I'm okay there, but sometimes I do miss the apex there.
All right.
And yeah, I mean, I'm
And
on
it's
the
straightforward after
heavier
that.
side of things. Yeah. So I think C6 is pretty good. And the double left, I take it like almost ideally. And then I lose a lot on the main straight because I'm on the heavier end. So
Yeah, that's unfortunately the problem in karting. Once you're against people who are lighter and then there's no ballast weight, then you'll lose on the straights then. It's interesting to hear your feedback about the corners that you want to go over, and we're going to do that. You've got a good foundation in terms of your lines. That's what I found. And, certainly the lap time speaks for itself. For 40 flat is very respectable. This is because you've got that overall understanding of, okay, where I want to position my cart on certain corners, where I want to get my braking done. Now it's just going to be small refinements that we've got to do. Turn 1, what's your current approach for it? Is it a brake, like a wide entry, then a brake? What's your thinking behind it?
yeah. So for turn 1, like I just look at the braking point, which is usually the second set of tires that are there. So once the nose of the cart reaches there, I slam the brake and get the rotation.
Is it this set or still further?
I think even further.
Yeah.
So somewhere around.
Somewhere about here.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That's where I slam the brakes. I mean, and I ideally try to make sure to give in the aggressive turn in to make the sequence a lot straighter than it actually is.
Yeah. I like this through turn 1. What about your apex? You're trying to go mid, early, late?
I try to push somewhere between mid and late.
I think that's the right path you're doing. In terms of this lap over here, this was a nice effort. Braking and turning. Once we get onto the gas, you can see we're straightening up our steering wheel slightly, and then we're hitting the latter part of the corner. This is very important because you've got to look at the track in straight lines. How can we get to the next part over here as quickly as possible? Why don't we just straight line it like this? So what this enables you to do, taking a slightly later apex from the left-hand side of the track, let the kart flow out. And if you notice, you barely had to put any steering angle in between. In fact, what you're doing is readjusting your hand position. Before we do proceed further, that is one thing, the main thing I did want to discuss with you is your hand position. Is this by habit how you've got this dynamic hand position, I call it, because you're moving it around? Is that your preference? How did you come about that?
Well, I think it just happens out of instinct. I don't think I've practiced it. Yeah,
I also
it's natural.
If I may add, because when I get tired, it's easier to like pull the steering down to turn the car in. So I just raise my hand on the top of the steering and it kind of just push so it's easier because I get tired after a good couple laps.
Absolutely, the physicality is going to be a factor there. And when I started karting, this is exactly how I used to drive on habit. Then my coach came and said, "Look, Omar, the first thing we want you to change, and more than change, try, is hands in a fixed position. So whenever we drive, we want to try to imagine they're glued to the steering wheel. I can't move them. What that does is add more physicality because now there's more effort required. And our logic when we corner is rather than going for the pull, so the inside hand does the work, we want our outside hand to do the work. The logic behind that is we're going to turn the corner more with our body, right? Because we're pushing against the steering wheel, we're leaning more, right? If it's a corner with braking, you're braking a bit more for rotation. All of that combined together will essentially allow you to turn the kart more with your body. So we're putting barely any angle of steering. So when it comes to your steering wheel, we're barely having to move it. And in a kart, those fine details will gain you 1/10, 2/10 each corner. So overall, from your driving, the lines are great, and we're going to round off by just going over some small tweaks that you could try. But if you could try from next time, try it out. That's very, very important. Hands in a fixed position and focus more on pushing against the steering wheel in return than pulling. Like, for example, we're coming up to a left-hand corner over here. So which hand would you push with over here for this left-hand corner?
So from your tutorials, I would say
Yeah.
it is on the right. Yeah. So you
Exactly.
need to push with your right hand.
So the outside hand for this corner, since this is the left-hand corner, the right is the outside. Push against the steering wheel over here. This is a corner which requires braking, so let's go hard on the brakes. And then, put our body weight to the outside, and hopefully we're able to minimize, half as much steering angle over here, right? Basically put in less. So we're using our body and the brakes in this corner to turn the kart.
A quick
Couple of
question.
go for it.
Lower body position, like obviously doing motorcycles, the thing
Right.
is like you have to keep your hands like as light as possible. So that's what I was trying to do by my hand position. But with my legs, sometimes I like to grip the tank, the fuel
Okay.
tank, and
Yep.
maybe brace my knee or something against the tank when going through corners, just so that I can, like, if I'm going through a right-hander, I'll brace my knee, my right knee against the tank so that I can try and get more weight to the left-hand side of the cart
Yeah.
to take the corner a bit better. It's a bit like motorcycling.
You won't believe that how much of an impact the body weight has on the kart. You're the heaviest object. Use that to your advantage. Manipulate the kart in certain ways. And as much as the upper body we're emphasizing here, as Brandon said, let your legs and your knees go with the flow. So what you'll feel, in example, in the left-hand corner over here, is this leg will naturally be inclined to pushing to the right. So let it, of course, if it requires braking and all, then don't let your foot get involved too much in that. But certainly the upper part of your leg will help in that. So turn 3, what's your approach over here? Is there a specific braking point again for the hairpin?
So I mean, during the practice sessions, I've tried figuring out where I could, to what extent I could just figure out the breaking point, and it's usually somewhere around the posture that you see here,
On
near
the
the
right
tire
side
miss.
there?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of an open patch. You can see as we get closer there, it's starting to apply some brakes. Brake, turn in, and then you're basically releasing at this point, which is before the apex, yeah? So hard on the brakes, gas out just before the apex. In terms of the actual location of the apex, mid to late you're going for?
Yeah, I'm aiming for the mid to late apex, but here in this case, I just took a mid apex. So
nice. Yeah. We got a long straight coming up after this, so exit speed is crucial. That's why, as much as you want to go for a slightly late break, don't let that compromise the exit. So there's lap time to be won on the exit. Just braking slightly earlier might be to an advantage for you. In terms of the runoff over here as well, then there's no runoff as per se, but the Tires act as a reference. Come towards the outside. So again, we're utilizing all of the track, keeping that momentum high. Final comment on the left-hand hairpin is about consistency, right? And I like your approach over here. I think you should keep that the same. The one thing that I do emphasize in terms of being consistent is because it's so early in the lap. We explained this is sector 1. So the moment we start a lap and then we brake too late over here, or we carry too much speed on corner entry over here, maybe we miss the apex, so we leave some space the apex over here, that can mess up your lap nice and early. And essentially all of this remaining lap, even if you perfect it, could have been a couple of tenths better had you have been a slightly smoother through the first hairpin. So you want to take risk, but don't overdo it, that it's going to mess up the rest of the lap. That's all I'd say.
Okay.
Otherwise than that, your line looks good. I'd keep it up. Final part I do
Okay.
want to discuss now is it turn 5, the hairpin coming up, you were saying?
Yeah, so the right
one.
hander. Yeah, start of the double head. Yes.
Just over here. So
Yes.
we mentioned this is the corner, which again requires a bit of braking. It's an opposite hairpin where it's a right-hand turn. I wouldn't say it's as tight, right, as the previous hairpin we covered. So
Yes.
basically, you can get away with less braking and less steering. In terms of your current approach, is there a real reference for braking here, or is it on feeling?
So again, I'll try to look at the tire mess here, like
Yeah.
right around. Yeah, so I think I kind of look at this camp that Marshall has as a reference point as well. Yeah, so I
Okay.
think I'd be looking at how close I get to that particular camp before I start braking. So I think right about there is when I brake. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when we put things in slow-mo, you can really see where you brake, where you turn. And you've just really stopped the gas now, which means you're going for an early brake. Once again, in relation to the corner, people looking from the outside be like, oh, why is he braking that early? But no, that's a positive. The reason why it's a positive, sacrificing that time on entry, sharp turning done, and you can see the next frame, you've put your foot back onto the gas, and now we're feeding the gas throughout this portion of the corner. One more time. Release your foot off the gas, so you're braking, sharp turn, watch your right foot now, gas, progressive, 100% gas now, so we're before the apex, keeping RPMs high. Notice how the steering wheel as well is coming back to a neutral position, so we're not putting too much steering lock in, and we're right up to the limit of the apex over here. So we're not overdoing it because is it some sand on the inside?
Yeah, so I mean the track drops. So there's the tarmac, and then you have a slight drop. So
Yeah, and that's that
your
risk
tire
reward.
goes off. Yeah.
That's the risk reward where the moment, of course, we want to be as close to the curb or the apex as we call it as possible. But here it's a dip. So if you take too much, you're going to be losing your lap by dipping there. Here you're right on the edge, and then you're able to carry that speed with you towards the next sequence. Is this more on instinct, how you're turning in, or you sort of think about it, I've got to just turn in early now so I can get this close? How is it done? Because this was almost perfect.
Yeah, so I actually try to think about it. So and like I also like try to break how I'm turning into 3 parts, where like first I just look at the breaking point, and the moment I reach the breaking point, I throw my eyes on the apex.
Nice.
And once I'm at the apex, I'm looking at the exit.
Excellent. One thing I'd just advise you to experiment. Let's see if we can go slightly faster through here. Have you ever tried lifting for this corner instead of braking?
No, I've never tried lifting.
Okay, that would be worth trying, but we want to use the lift and sharp turn technique. So similar to how you're doing a sharp turn in over here. It's very important because an early lift will reduce speed. A sharp turn in at the same time will reduce even more speed. So we're slowing the kart down. And what that should do is induce a bit of rotation in your kart. You're going to feel the rear end step out a little because you're at high speed and you're giving an aggressive command to the kart. What you want to do is then start feeding the gas, similar how you're doing over here. Try to do that before the apex and see how much speed you can carry. If it's too much speed where maybe you're drifting too much, if you listen to the tires, it's squealing, or you feel that your momentum is limited, it's cutting out, then you're probably carrying a bit too much speed. You might have to lift more. If you find yourself right on the limit, so you lift, you sharp turn, I'm back on the gas, and now my steering wheel is maybe in the middle or maybe a few degrees to the left now, I'm counter steering, that's acceptable. And that actually shows you're towards the limit of that corner. So that's something I would try. The reason why I'm advising you to do a lift for this corner is simply it's a lot wider. You got that space to work with. So one thing I'd say is, I know you're entering it slightly tight over here. On a lift occasion, I'd be coming to use all of the outside part of the track, make the corner as wide as possible, and then go for your lift and sharp turn. And then get back on the gas, apex as you are over here. And if you feel you need to use a few more centimeters of track on this left side, because you've got a bit more speed, feel free to do so. And see how that works.
Okay.
When are you going to go to the track next?
This Wednesday, the coming Wednesday.
Super. Two things I want you to try then. Number one, push-pull technique. So let's try and keep our hands in a fixed position. And rather than pulling with the inside hand, let's try pushing. What's the objective behind this? We're going to corner with less steering angle. So rather than putting too much steering angle in, we're going to half that, hopefully. And hopefully for turn 5, which is this corner, the hairpin, let's try to approach the corner much wider. So use all of the track width on entry. Let's go for a lift on entry and then sharp turn and see if you're able to gain some time by replacing the braking point for lift. How does that sound?
Yep, I'll try them out.
I think that's a solid debrief. Any other questions before we round off for today's session? Sritran.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question.
I'm going to come to you, Kareem. Just let Sritran
Okay.
ask his, and I'll come right to you.
Yeah. So, what would be an acceptable amount of revs that you can lose through a hairpin? Because what I feel is sometimes I just lose. Like I obviously know that the revs drop very fast, but then it takes a lot of time for them to come back.
Yeah.
Even though I am way like on the throttle way before the apex of the corner, so I suffer that a lot in the first, the left hairpin that I try to go through. So
Turn 3, basically.
yeah, turn 3. So I've I've done multiple overtakes there wherein I have the inside line, or like I do a switch back, but then even after the switch back, the guy whom I switch back on tends to gain a lot on me.
In that case where you're going for the overtake, you take the inside line to pass him, you naturally get compromised because you've taken a tighter angle for the corner. Generally, though, in a hairpin, you have to expect your revs to drop just because of the nature of the corner. It's so tight. And, when you approach a corner like this at such high speed, there's no way you can take the corner at similar speeds. You've got to reduce from like 100% all the way down to like a 25%. So it's okay to lose revs, but if you feel you're losing too much of the revs, think about how quickly am I converting from braking to gas? So am I braking, then I'm releasing from the brakes, then I'm putting gas? Is that duration too long? So what you can do is go brake. As you come off the brakes, apply some gas almost straight away, right? pump the gas earlier, feed the gas earlier. That's the only way you can try to keep the revs higher. Because at the end of the day, what is revs? It's that power you're putting into the engine, right? So the sooner you can do it, the quicker you can build it back up.
Are your revs connected to your wheel speed or your engine speed?
Engine speed, RPMs, you can think of it as.
So if your wheel speed is low, then it's just going to drop your RPMs.
Yeah.
Okay, got
Yes.
you.
I think that was that was a good question you asked. I'm going to have to go over to Kareem now before we round up for today's session because we have run out of time, I'm afraid. Kareem.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be doing the links layout next, and I haven't really driven much on it, so I'll probably do only one Ironman practice session before the actual race.
Yeah.
So, what's probably like the best way to kind of adjust to your track? Like, just find where your limit is, because that's
Yeah.
something I struggle with a lot, especially
Yeah.
in sections. I'm so used to taking a certain way.
Yeah.
So when you just reverse that and add some barriers there, it's completely like overwhelming, you know?
It is because your psychology is all flipped on its head. Track time is the most important thing. The fact that you'll have, is it 2 hours or is it 1 hour you're doing Ironman?
Probably only an hour.
Yeah. An hour is still plenty, right? It's better than 10 minutes, better than 15 minutes. Hour is good. What you got to do is then break that hour up because it's an hour continuous, right? Green flag, like, yeah. Have a plan in place that every 10, or I'd say easier to make it is 15 minutes. So you have 4 quarters, 15, 15, 15. I'm going to be doing something, right? I'm going to be changing something or trying something. So for that 15-minute block, when you finish that 1 hour, you can see your lap times and say, okay, this was block 1, block 2, block 3. This is what I was doing. This is the impact it made on my lap times. So I'd spend the first 15 minutes just driving, right? How am I feeling with this? Is it feeling awkward? Is it feeling good? So in any track you go to in the world, there's going to be corners which you're going to be good at straight away. But there's going to be a few corners you'll be like, that one's killing me, that one's killing me. So within those 15 minutes, you'll be able to identify, all right, this is the corner I'm struggling at, this corner I'm struggling at, maybe this one. So dedicate the rest of those 15-minute blocks towards adjusting that corner individually. And then go over to the next corner and the next corner. It's a lot of work to process, right? There's a lot of calculations going on. Okay, I've got to spend this time doing this and this. Trust me, it's a lot easier than it is than I'm explaining to do. But as I said, you've got 1 hour on track, 15-minute blocks. I'm going to be experimenting something different each 15 minutes. And ideally, to speeding up that learning process is always about following people, right? And the quicker drivers. Now, if you feel that, people are just going past you and then you're sort of in that no man's land, you get left behind, no one's in front, no one behind. This is the perfect opportunity to slow down and wait for them to come around and join the pack again, because there's no loss in practice, right? You can sacrifice a lap, let everyone come around and join the train again. I guarantee you're not going to be left behind by everyone. Okay, the top 3 guys are, masters of the track. They'll leave you within a few laps. But the rest of the midfield and all, you can stay behind them. And
because we're all super close, especially on the shorter track that isn't really almost 2 minutes long. Like last time I did an Ironman on this layout, fastest lap was a 14.8. I did a 16 flat.
Okay.
So
it's not too bad. Yeah. A second is manageable. In kart rotation, you can gain a couple of tenths easily.
Because that was in July of last year.
Yeah, you're a different experience level then as well. You've done so much more now.
Yeah, but something I quite struggle with, actually, I uploaded the track layout, is that it's kind of this Suzuka S's, but if it was Monaco section, where instead of the normal chicane, you kind of veer off into this S section, and it's either you enter it with super high speed, but then it really tightens up towards the end. So that's something I could never get right with. Should I brake? Should I lift? Should I, what should I do here? I'm always kind of confused, and that gives me a lot of inconsistency between every lap, because there isn't always this marker you can use every single lap, because it's just opened up. They just put a barrier there, and that's where you're supposed to go. It's not like normally you have the curb, you have a certain bump in the track, you have something that's the track.
You have some kind of
the
a
track
reference, a
surface
consistent
changes.
reference, yeah, or even
Yeah.
surface. The best thing for those corners, right, is you
I
start off
have
flat
it, yeah,
out.
uploaded if you wanna put it up.
You do.
because-
As I said, look, I'm
Yeah.
afraid we just don't have time now. So what we'll do, let's save this for another track help session. Well, I will tell you to round off within corners like that. It's a general point. You start flat out. Can I take this corner flat out? Let's say you might crash into the barrier.
Definitely not.
Then
Definitely.
okay, we're gonna lift. Okay, maybe when I lift, I'm sliding too much, right? My engine revs are going down.
It's
That's
not
too
even
fast.
a lift,
Let's-
it's a brake. It's just
Then
where I
it's
have
a
to
break.
brake.
You see, you've gone through the stages, so you've identified. Okay, from you can't take it flat out. It's ultimately going to be a break. As I said, Kareem, look, let's save this because we want to do an in-depth analysis next time when we have more time for links
Okay,
layout.
and I'll have the lap I have.
Have the lap ready. That's
uploaded, yeah.
very, very important, guys. We're going to round off for today's session. Just
All right, yeah.
a quick
Even what
likewise to you as well, Kareem. Just to round off, many people ask, how can we join the academy? Go to the KTips website. You can join for free, send a request, and you'll get access to these weekly track help sessions where you can submit some footage like our drivers did today, some track maps, any questions you might have as well. KTips Academy is the place to be and be part of a global community. Until next week, guys, at 6 p.m. GMT. We'll all see you then. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Good night.